All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report Town Hall session. We're talking about the CBC. We'd like to hear your views. The task force has 11 days to collect views across the 47 counties and speaking to the people there. Let's hear what you're saying on video. Quite a number of them have been sent through. Let's listen to some of them.
I would want to look at this discussion from the aspect of form and content. The form is 844. What really was wrong with 844? 8 years in primary school, 4 years in high school, and 4 years in university. Because from my view, 8 years was sufficient enough to give a child, time, age to grow under the wings of their parents, then move to high school after they are of a responsible certain age. What really we needed to also have been changed, and it was the content.
How will CBC consider a child with a special need in the country?
CBC is a very good system of education, but the challenge is, are we able to sustain CBC as a country? Do we have the capacity to maintain the proposals that have been provided for by CBC? My proposal would be we stick to 844 and we try to implement it as it was previously suggested. The original 844 that was there, we tried to improve on it. Like, for example, we tried to come up with the content that is more of dealing with the technical abilities of the child, competencies of the child, but still under 844 as a system.
Now that the free education has been, the government has been paying the free education. Now that we will have primary reaching grade 6, will the government take the responsibility, or will it pay for the junior secondary school now that the primary education will be sliced with 2 years? Thank you.
Can we have massive in-depth training of the teachers and at the secondary school option? Because next year, students or other people will likely be transforming to the junior secondary school option. So that is why I want to urge that can you also be included to ensure that teachers are well prepared and are able to assist the students as far as CBC is concerned.
Teachers and the CBC, are they well trained about CBC? Are they aware what is required to be taught in CBC? My next question is, who will teach the CBC? Is it the primary school teachers being promoted to high school, the junior secondary that is, or the teachers who are in high school right now? Are they the one who will receive the Form 1 junior and start teaching them the CBC?
This program should be taken early next year for those pupils that are in grade 5. But the ones that are in grade 6, because we understand that the exam is just around the corner, and we are not yet to know what is the future of our children.
Yes, a very pertinent issues being raised by parents there. One of them actually comes back to the 844 system and someone saying that is the structure. The content is the only thing that should have changed. There are also those who are talking about the special needs children, sustainability, free education. Does this now go to the junior secondary school, the training of the teachers?
Thank you. And I like the comments that have been made around the form and the content. Actually, this is a possibility that the task force might come and say, we are reviewing the curriculum because it is due for review. After 5 years, it is due for review. They could come back and say, we are recommending a review of the curriculum and we are going to change the system. So CBC remains, but it is implemented in a system that is 844, which is 8 years in primary, 4 years in secondary. What will need to be reorganized is to say, where are the years of middle school where we are supposed to be exploring the talents of the learner?
Yeah.
What was supposed to be done in junior secondary? Where is that going to be? Are we going to have part of it in primary and part of it in secondary? So that is one. The issue of 844 should have been implemented the way it was originally designed. Maybe I need to burst some people's bubble. 844 was started in 1983. It was not a product of any public participation. It was not a product of any task force that was set up to review the curriculum. It was a byproduct of a task force called McKay Commission that was set up to determine the viability of a second university in Kenya. It actually recommended the establishment of Egerton as a university, and on the side said you can change the system. Now, if you look at the subjects that were introduced at that time, the woodwork and the rest, it makes sense because that is the time when we had 17, 18-year-olds in primary. And the idea was when these boys and girls are going to terminate studies in primary, because by the time they're sitting KCP, some of them are 19.
Yeah.
And I had some of them in my class when I was in primary. They are going to terminate studies. What will they have gotten from school?
As practical skills.
As a skill that they can start to use to earn a living.
Yeah.
Today you have these 12, 13-year-olds. Why do you want to teach them woodwork in primary? To do what with it after? They are not employable after primary. Plus, we are implementing, we are under the new constitution that says basic education is a right, and basic education is defined as primary and secondary.
Yeah.
So we are implementing, or at least attempting to implement, the 100% transition.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no child who is being envisioned as ending their studies at primary and needing some practical skills to use in the village.
Yeah.
The way we have said that currently the way CBC is being taught, it seems too practical, is because practicals are being reintroduced in school to give children who are talented differently, not cognitively talented, but talented differently,
Yeah.
an opportunity to develop their talents from that early age. It doesn't mean that they are being taught a skill for which they need to be employed after school. After school, they will still proceed to next levels and develop the skills based on the pathway they will have chosen, and the pathway where their talents will have led them. So that is that. So CBC and SNE, and I think this is very important, to talk about the children with special needs.
Yeah.
And the question that we have to ask ourselves is, where and how are we handling the children with special needs currently in the system that we are phasing out? A majority of them are not in school. It's only reason that the government has been trying to get more children with special needs in school, but majority of them are not in school. CBC has made provision for children with special needs. Are there challenges associated with that? Yes. Do we need to say the old system will be better for children with special needs? No. The new system will be better. We just need to invest more and more targeted. And there has been an argument that is repeated here about the country being too poor to implement this system.
Including questions of sustainability, how sustainable is it in the long run. Yeah.
This country is not too poor, and this country is spending a significant amount of money in education.
Should that increase, though?
No. The problem is not the allocation. The problem is how we are utilizing what is being allocated in the sector. If we can improve efficiency in how we utilize those resources being put in the education sector by the government and by development partners, we can actually be able to accomplish much more than we are doing currently. And I think that the discussion around money should focus on that. First, two things around the money. One is, how are we utilizing the money that we are putting in? Second, how are we targeting those resources to those who need? Because we are not targeting. You have children going to primary schools where they are paying 300,000 per term in primary. Then they end up in Alliance, and government pays 22,000 for them per term in secondary school. For sure, they don't need that money. But some other child for whom government is paying 22,000 needs more than 22,000. So if we start to apply ourselves to finding solutions on the equity challenge, we can be able to target the resources better. We can also be able to utilize the resources better, and we'll achieve much more than we are achieving currently.
There was a question on the 100% transition. does that now apply to junior secondary school as well?
Yes, 100% transition must apply to junior secondary more than before, because these are very young kids.
Yeah.
You are not going to let a child drop out of school at age 12. That was the problem that the designers of the curriculum were trying to remedy when they put a transition at grade 6.
Yeah.
They were trying to remedy school dropout at that particular age. So you can now let children not proceed.
All right.
Because they will not even have completed basic education, and so you'll be violating their right as written down in our constitution.
Yeah.
So they will have to, that will have to apply.
Okay.
And let me still emphasize the point of saying we are not, and we should not keep these children in the primary schools where they are. Because we have primary schools that are struggling to be even primary schools. We have seen in some of our your news, primary schools where children from different classes are sharing the same roof.
Yeah.
One teacher facing that way with the other children, another facing this way. How will that school host junior secondary? It will not be able to host junior secondary. And then it will be too far away from being enabled to meet the minimum.
Yeah.
Because they need a lab, they need at least a library.
Yeah.
We can put all these children in sub-county schools. We can also take this idea. I have had complaints about exams. For me, these exams shouldn't happen.
The ones that are happening.
The CAP C exam should not happen.
Okay.
We should just, because it is 100% transition, those exams have been brought when there was that mention of now children should choose schools, 12-year-olds choosing schools where they will go to. That is the notion that has brought exams back. And that is undoing the gains we have made by introducing this curriculum, which was to do away with the high-stakes exam. We should do away with that exam so that children transition. In future, we might have that grade 6 exam, but for now, let them transition. Let us save the money that we want to waste on this exam, because this exam will bring no specific value, in my view.
Because there's 100% transition anyway.
It will bring no specific value.
Okay.
Let us save that money and use that money to quickly expand the capacity of the schools to accommodate these children that are coming from grade 6.
Okay. There's another question on who will teach junior secondary. You talked about the training, which was one of the questions on the video also.
In the interim, let the government hire the teachers they want to hire, and specifically prepare them for junior secondary. And then going forward, let us prepare secondary school teachers in the areas where there is deficiency, like the integrated science that I mentioned. Let us prepare teachers for those areas so that they are there to teach these learners.
Okay.
Because the content that is there is quite heavy for primary. Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of questions also coming through on Twitter and comments. Let's see what you're saying. Let's bring that up on screen at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. We want to see what your comments are on CBC. You can also send in a few more videos really quickly if I can squeeze some of them. They're quite a number. Let's see if we can squeeze in a few more videos coming through. I see here Don Kishao says the government should abolish foreign languages as subjects in CBC. In fact, they should leave foreign languages out until they implement the indigenous languages. We are losing our culture and languages. Let me get your comment on this first. Before
for me, I have no problem with foreign languages per se, but I wouldn't mind reduction of the learning areas, because that is one of the things that is burdening the implementation of the new curriculum. We don't need to burden young children with so many learning areas. If eliminating some of those foreign languages at the lower levels would help, I have no problem. I would actually think that in the next review, we need to cut down on the learning areas.
Okay. That's from Don Kishao. Let's see what else you're saying here on Twitter. Citizen TV Kenya, Trevor Mbija. Anne Wangeshi, to reduce the current congestion in secondary schools, retain junior secondary in the primary schools. The senior secondary, 3 grades, will help ease the population. This will make use of the current standard 7 and standard 8 classes, meaning we will only make provision for grade 9. Does this sound practical to you? Let's go back to that tweet.
There are very many schools without classrooms, even for those class 7 and 8. So, but for me, the classroom is not the primary thing. The primary thing in education is the teacher. With a teacher, you can learn from anywhere.
Okay.
You don't need a classroom even. So, and in fact, that was my biggest problem with the former CS for education, that he was prioritizing structures that were not necessary and leaving behind the most important ingredient in learning, which is the teacher.
Okay.
So for me, focus primarily right now should be on the teachers, to prepare them, make them available, and we can start to work on the infrastructure.
All right. Let's see what else you're saying here. Let's squeeze in as many of them as we can. Lawrence Kitema says CBC is not bad. However, we have limited resources and facilities and a limited number of teachers. We need not to burden parents too much. But as a matter of public policy, we should design an education system that is robust to minimal parental involvement. All right, let me get your reaction on this parental involvement from Lawrence Kitema, because this is also a very common reaction.
Yes, the parental involvement, my own personal view is that should be reviewed a little.
Okay.
Should be reviewed because there was a bit of more inclination towards the urban parent who is too busy chasing the money and finding too little time for the children when we were thinking through that aspect of CBC. But that is not the typical parent. The typical parent is the mzee and the mama in the village across the country who is available, but does not have skills capacity to support children in doing certain things. And I want to bring this up because when 844 started and children were being made make a rope, go and make a broom, and because there were marks attached to it, what parents started to do was to buy these things from the market and give children to take them to school. If the current approach of parental engagement is maintained in the form in which it is, parents will start to buy things from professional makers of them and giving children to take to school, and that will undermine the whole purpose of engaging the parent in the learning of the children. So my view and my expectation is that at the end of all this review, and we are going to have another model of parental engagement that focuses on the communication between the teacher and the parent around the learning of their child. We have had problems before where you see someone is sent home for a disciplinary problem. And when the parent comes to school, the person they're describing is totally different than the person the school knows. Those are the gaps that affect education. When the teachers know one person and the parents know another. And that happens because there is no sufficient communication between the teachers and the parents. What we have right now is go ask the parent to do this, go ask the parent to do that. I think that will not narrow that gap. It will still leave the gap about the learner. One side being known by the teachers, another side being known by the parents, and it will not help. So I expect a review on the model of parental engagement to make it less burdensome for the parents, but also not to allow parents to abscond from the responsibility of raising their own children.
All right. There's another tweet here from Vincent Barkutwa, I think. He says, CBC is nice in identifying and nurturing skills from learners. There is need to look into the following fundamentals first. Number 1, challenges faced by parents. Number 2, teacher challenges. Number 3, infrastructural support challenges. Number 4, students and pupils challenges. Number 5, environmental challenges. This summarizes it to Dr. Manyasa, but with the one that mostly we don't talk about is number 5, environmental challenges. Because you cannot compare the CBC student here in Nairobi to one up north. How can that be bridged so that there's no exaggeration of marginalization, so to speak?
Totally agree that we need to look at the environment and the context where the children are to understand, therefore, their unique challenges that they are facing as they go through the system. And for me, that will be done when we have addressed the challenges facing parents, because those are also context related, and when we have addressed the challenge of teachers, so that if you have areas that are faced with many other difficulties. You need to make sure that the teachers are ready for those contexts. They are there in sufficient numbers, and they have the right motivation to work in those contexts. In other parts of the world, for example, you'll be told that for you to grow through the teaching profession, for you to become a school head, for example, you need to have worked in a hardship area. So working in a hardship area does not then become a punishment for you. Because today, the teacher employer threatens teachers with sending them to hardship areas if they don't behave well. And that is just the wrong approach. That marginalizes the children in those areas because they receive teachers who are not then committed to doing the job there.
Coming there as a punishment.
Going there as a punishment, and it doesn't help. So it is true, we have to look at those factors, and I am happy the way he has summarized them. And looking at them, it's not something that we can sit here today and say, we have looked at this is the solution, this is the solution to this, and we have finished. I think that many of the solutions are going to be, as we proceed, the one thing that we need to be able to demonstrate, and I hope that the leadership of the Ministry of Education will be able to demonstrate, is to demonstrate goodwill in dealing with parents, goodwill in dealing with the teachers, and understanding in dealing with the children who find themselves in very varied circumstances. That is critical, because what has been there in the past, and this is not a curriculum thing, this is a disposition that we've had for some time that I find not good at all, is that if you go to our schools out here, in some of our rural places, people come together, they carry stones on their head, they start putting up classrooms. Once the school is well established, a fence is put around it, and these people are not allowed to even visit that school. This tradition we've had that it is third term, parents are not even allowed in school. We have spoken to school heads and they are suffering. You have a girl who is expectant in school, and that girl is not allowed to be visited by the parent. What do you do with that child? She's going through a lot of challenges. The only person she trusts cannot come to visit. Of course, they are not allowed to have phones in school. So how do you deal with it? We have to revise our relationship with parents and communities that surround schools. That is something we have to rework. We have to rework the relationship, particularly between teachers and the teacher-employer. When you speak to people who are going around collecting views, they will tell you a lot of what they are hearing is something negative about the Teacher Service Commission from teachers. And part of why we had challenges with training of teachers was we assigned the responsibility to Teacher Service Commission. Kenyans don't listen to the message, they listen to the messenger. You send a messenger who has no credibility with people with very good message, they will not be listened to. So a lot of teachers resisted the training. TSC came with a stick threatening, if you don't show up for the training, we will send you home. Then the teachers showed up, they paid no attention, they learned nothing, they ticked the box. So that is one of the challenges. So we have to redefine the relationship with the teachers so that the teachers are doing the job and enjoying doing it. Not because you can supervise. Because professional work cannot be supervised.
We're running out of time here, but still, let's see if we can squeeze in maybe 2 or 3 more tweets. Mutai says, does CBC consider children with special needs? Children with special needs are assessed using same criteria as those who are okay. This is not fair, especially in practicals. We had spoken about this earlier on. Let's see what else you're saying here on Twitter as we wind up on this conversation. Ngare Taita says, honestly, the whole idea of CBC was good, but it was hastily embraced. CBC is very demanding, and for a developing country, it is tricky to implement it. As such, few will benefit from it. Let's see what else you're saying here really quick. And then we get closing remarks. Mark Makuda says CBC should be embraced in Kenya and appropriately institutionalized in order to cater for all pupils. Public participation is key to iron out the contentious issues within the curriculum. It's dangerous to copy and paste programs from other nations and implement them in Kenya. All right? Let's see what else you're saying here. Lele Senior says change is inevitable. The society is dynamic. The question we need to ask ourselves is, how are we going to improve our education system to make it consonant to the changing needs of our society? All right? Squeeze in just one more here. Dante Cantona says CBC is good for the rich. By the rich, I mean rich countries. As a teacher, I can confidently tell you it is near impossible to succeed under the current curriculum. All right? And that's Dante Cantona, the teacher. I don't know whether we have Kennedy Echesa back online so that we get Kennedy Echesa. Let me get your final remarks on this. What do you recommend going forward now that we are in this situation where we are right now?
Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah.
First, I acknowledge the fact that Kenyans who are watching this program have given a number of practical solutions on what ought to be done, including our good friend, Dr. Manyasa. The question we should be asking ourselves, are these things we can do in the next 2 months? Can we employ 56,000 teachers in the next month? Roll out infrastructure that can sufficiently serve CBC in the next 2 months?
Yeah.
The answer is in the negative. So we need to begin investing in the suggestions that have been made in terms of human resource, teacher employment, teacher training, and infrastructure upgrading in secondary schools. Meanwhile, in the interim, I am still of the opinion that we suspend and get ready for this particular curriculum.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Kennedy Echesa, the advocate of the High Court and educational law expert. So what do you recommend going forward, Dr. as we wind up on this conversation? Because like you said, this is not a conversation we can finish now and take all the boxes. So it's a continuous conversation.
Prioritize recruitment and training of teachers. And we are running out of time. It should happen now, so we can use these 2 months to train. Do away with the grade 6 exam that is causing so much confusion and anxiety for nothing, because it will add zero value to the implementation of the curriculum. And save that money. Accept that we are turning our sub-county schools into junior school, and send all grade 6 to our sub-county schools. Allow those in private schools that have set up junior secondary to proceed in those schools in grade 7, so that we ease the burden. And finally, start right now to review the parental engagement model, so that we ease the distress on the parents. I think that with those, if they're done well, between now and January 23rd, we'll be able to transition these children. And there will be, it will not be easy, there will be pressures here and there, but those pressures will not be insurmountable.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for making time this evening. Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director, Usawa Gender, Kennedy Echesa, Advocate of the High Court and educational law expert, and most important, thank you all for all the views that you sent through. The task force still has up to until 18th to take feedback from the people. We are still maintaining our special focus on the CBC because this is important. These are your children we are talking about. This is the future we are talking about. So we'll continue this engagement over and over again until we come to a solution that is suitable for everybody else. All right, my name is Trevor Mbija. It's always a pleasure having you here with us on the Monday Report. We'll see you again next week. The same conversation on CBC. Find out what the people are saying out there, what the recommendations are as the task force winds up that particular journey. All right, good night for now.